item F is public expression, and public expression, and each person that's signed up, which it looks like there's, first I've seen it, but I'm looking, looks like maybe 11 persons. Each person's limited to a total of 5 minutes speaking time, and will be, like me, it just goes on and on and on, but we will have to remind you that your time is up, please, to stop. We also be reminded that the rules are that the council listens and takes note, but cannot respond, and so certainly no questions are asked there. The first one is Charles Duncan, 2162 Scottwood. Mr. Duncan. And after Mr. Duncan is Carol Simmons on Harper Lane.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Charles Duncan. I live on 2162 Scottwood Drive in Gastonia, and I'm here to join my neighbors in opposition to the C2 rezoning for the Powell property between Maplewood and Glenwood. In my neighborhood, we are homeowners. We are not real estate investors. Our homes are our largest single investment, and we have to raise our families and to live out our lives. We have purchased our property with certain expectations, covenants, and restrictions of our neighborhood for our mutual protection of our property and the quality of life. We feel this is now threatened by this commercial intrusion to our neighborhood. Mr. Clay, who represents the Powells in the sale of this property, made a statement at the last hearing that the rezoning, that our neighborhood is against any change. This is not accurate. We are opposed to any unconditional, unsystematic change. Once classified as broad C2 zone, the city and the neighborhood will have little, if any, control over what commercial businesses can be purchased and build on this property, with no considerations of the impact to our neighborhood. Your vote to affirm this rezoning makes a statement to the citizens of this community that the disposal of property takes precedence over the impact to the surrounding neighborhood. Mr. Clay also argued that the impact will mostly be to the Powell Trust property south of Glenwood, and that this residential property will be a buffer to the neighborhood. Yet the commercial property for sale signs remain on this property, and since Mr. Clay also stated that it is common sense that no one will want to build near commercial property, he is telling you that soon he will have an application for a rezoning of this property submitted to the commissioners and to you to approve, as you have done so far. We realize there are competing interests here, but we ask those who voted to rezone this property C2 to reconsider your vote. I see no unreasonable impediment to the Powells to wait until they have potential buyers to submit plans for this property before rezoning, so that the impact of the neighborhood can be reasonably assessed and systematically planned. Or at the very least, we ask you to reduce this rezoning to a C1 conditional that minimizes the impact on our neighborhood. Otherwise, your unconditional approval makes this statement to our neighbors in Gastonia that they are one application away from having a disruption of their quality of life and a decrease of their property value, as Mr. Clay has already stated. Is this the kind of stewardship you envision for the citizens you represent? Your values, by your actions, are very important input for our consideration when it comes time for our vote. and I appreciate the time to let me speak.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Duncan. Carol Simmons, 655 Harper Lane, and next is Ashley Jenkins on Montclair.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. As you said, I live at 655 Harper Lane. I've been there since 1992. I've been very excited to be a resident of Gastonia. I've always liked living here. I moved from Illinois to here, and I've always believed it was one of the best places to live. I now have a family, and they're growing, and I like living here, and I chose where I live because it's very wooded. We have deer and all kinds of animals and critters. That's the drawing card because we're so close to where, to major roads, but you can also feel like you're in the woods. My son can go out and play, and I'm not worried about it because of the area the way it is. But what I came to talk about was this city has been recognized as the All-American City 3 times. Recently, you got the U.S. Conference of Mayors gave Gastonia the top livability award as the best place to live and work and have quality of life. We in the neighborhood feel very threatened right now that our quality of life of where we live and where we've chosen to live is being threatened, as Mr. Duncan said. Another award that this city has achieved great things. They were recognized for their zoning codes, but yet through this whole process, it seems as though a lot of the code is being disregarded. Well, that's just a guideline. Well, C2 is highway. There is no way that Glenwood is a highway. It doesn't have the infrastructure, it doesn't have the roads for it. And the impact that a C2 would do is huge to our neighborhood. You've heard all of it. We've given it. Now it's just making a plea that you will consider the impact and the quality of life. Downtown has their brochure and logo of great people, great place, and great promise. Great people. We've had youth here today that, you know, we hope they continue and come back, as the mayor said, to Gastonia for a great place to live. We have great neighbors. When this issue came up, we've all come together and worked together, and it's been a great place to be and great people. And now the promise, the great promise, is now up to you. Is the promise going to be that we will build commercial at all costs, increase congestion? You already know that Cox Road and Franklin is extremely congested, and you're already having to do a study for that area, and this is just a little bit off of that. And the impact to the residents will be huge, the negative impact. Or is our promise going to be to continue so that Gastonia can get the Livability Award again? We ask that you consider something far less than C2. Transition it down. Transition it to small commercial, a commercial 1, where it can be attractive. It can be it can be attractive. It can be small. It can actually enhance the neighborhood. We're not against change, but we are against changing. We are against impacting our quality of life, and we ask that we find some way to continue quality of life and still promote business, because business is important. Small business is very important, and this would be a great area, I believe, for small business to build. It's the backbone of our country. So we ask that you take this all into consideration, reconsider the C2 zoning, to oppose that, and hope that we have a promise of Great Livability Award in the Thomas Acres Gardner Park neighborhood because of what will happen on Glenwood. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Simmons. Ashley Jenkins. Next is Michael Dean.
Good evening.
Hello, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak. My name is Ashley Jenkins. I live on Montclair Avenue. My property borders the Powell property. I feel voting down the C2 rezoning request tonight would be best for Gastonia. I would like for City Council to approve the property for C1 conditional. C1 conditional provides a more attractive build that is enhancing and blends better with existing neighborhoods. C1 conditional also brings better jobs, more technically skilled jobs, higher paying jobs, and more jobs per square foot of build. C1 conditional has worked well for Charlotte, Mooresville, Davidson, and other areas with existing neighborhoods. And I feel like C1 conditional would greatly benefit Gastonia and all its citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Michael Dean, on a different issue here.
Michael, Mayor and Councilman, I feel a little out of place. I'm not here about real estate tonight. I'm here about the ABC. I live at 3816 Sherwood Circle. I do have a resume. I'm here to talk about ABC tonight. Can I give you a resume for the council? It may come up about ABC appointments in the future, and I'd just like to present my case. I'm a local person. I've been born and raised here. I lived here my whole life. I graduated from Ashley High School, Gaston College. I got a BS degree and a master's degree from Appalachian State University. I've always worked with numbers. I guess you'd call me a numbers guy. I worked for Carolina Freight for some 15 years, and one of my primary jobs there was working up and submitting $650 million budgets at that time when I was at Carolina Freight. I left prior to the company being sold and started Rapid Cash Refund. My wife and I built the company from the ground up. We've worked hard and we've been very blessed with our endeavor of building the company. I've learned a long time ago you can always learn from someone else. Every year I ask my employees, and we do employ up to 24 part-time and 4 full-time employees, tell me what you suggest that we can do to make our company better. And every year it surprises me that the employee with the least amount of job function always comes up with one of the greatest suggestions that usually makes my company more successful the next year. And that same suggestion and the same ability we used to use in the ABC system when I was on the board there. When I was on the board before, I was heavily involved with the merger of the Mount Holly and the Dallas business arrangements, which they're totally two different business entities. As we begin our merger with Mount Holly and Dallas, we would learn from each merger. And also while serving on the board, we also learned that it was not always in our best interest to merge with every municipality, because sometimes merging with other municipalities, it would not be in Gastonia's best interest. So sometimes we would just say no. In the early 90s, the previous board made the decision to close the West End store, which was a good decision because it became unprofitable. But in the late 90s and early 2000, the West End started to develop, and a lot more homes were being built. But the citizens there were not being served with the sale of controlled spirits. So I started looking at possibly considering opening up in a store on the West End. But in a board situation, democracy's rule. So it took some 5 years to get a majority to get the board to consider opening up a West End. And I'm very pleased that it did not take a long time to put profitable dollars to the bottom line. And since that time, those profitable dollars, of course, end up going to the city. My wife and I, we've been successful in our business, and there's not anything that I want from the city or anything that I hope to gain. I know I can make a difference as I did before. What I'd like to do is tonight is, if it comes up, I'd like for you to consider making a nomination and taking it to a vote. And I would consider it an honor and a privilege to once again serve you on the Gastonia ABC Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next one signed up is Cindy, is it Boyer? 2223 Glenwood Drive. And after that is Mr. Glenn Silverman at 2101 Scottwood. I'm sorry I didn't progress them fast enough.
Mayor, council members, my name is Lee Boyer. I live at 2223 Glenwood Drive. I'm right across from the proposed rezoning area. It's going to affect us more than anything. That and my neighbors, Trish and Moises. I'm here to ask that you vote down C2 unconditional for what it will do to our property values and the neighborhood, but also what it's going to do right down here at Cox Road, because we have such a traffic nightmare with all the new construction and everything else. There's a traffic study about to come out. As to that, I would ask that you wait for it, please. I see Glenda and David are in the audience, the Powell children. And I'd just like to say, your mom was a wonderful woman. I never got to meet your dad. But when the trees were coming down, I went down, as everybody stopped at my house, to ask what was going on, because we were all scared that there was going to be something going on. And she goes, not to worry, it would never be anything other than residential. Well, your mom dies, and now you guys are trying to get commercial land. This is our home. And your parents wanted nothing more than for this to be a buffer for that land, for the neighborhood. They never wanted to see anything commercial there. And I'm asking that you not do that. If there were anything in my heart to ask you to do, would make a park for your parents and ask for perpetuity as a tax relief for you all. But that, if wishes were, if wishes were true. But I would like to ask the city council right now to just vote it down and give the neighborhood a chance. I mean, if they want to come back and ask for C1, let them do that. But do not give the blank check to someone that we don't know. I mean, Mr. Clay could sell to someone, and they say they want to do this. Well, that's great and fine. They buy the land, and they do something none of us want. Well, you gave them permission. By giving unrestricted, it's giving them permission. I'm asking right now that you vote it down, and let's come up with something that works for everybody, please. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Glenn Silverman, please. And after Mr. Silverman is Randolph Taylor. Thomas Trail, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council, my name is Glenn Silverman. I live at 2101 Scottwood Drive. I thank you for your time in hearing us during the public expression to voice our concerns and speak about what we believe is our opposition to a C2 unrestricted zoning approval for the Powell property bordering Glenwood Drive and the other factors that you know of. I would just like to briefly speak to the City Council. Again, something that I had mentioned last month about interests. We all have our own interests, typically, at heart, whether it be personal property interests, the interests of the government, the interests of a trust, or a family, or for the public good, as brought by Cindy with an idea for a park. You, as voted members of the City Council for the City of Gastonia, the great place that this is, and the great promise that we, your citizens, ask you to carry out on a day-to-day basis in your jobs is to do what is in the best interest of the city and your citizens. I understand this also in my job on a day-to-day basis. I am a government employee, and I am charged with doing what is in the government's best interests. And at times there are certain decisions that we have to make where we have to agree to disagree about certain points. But you have to look out for, at the end of the day, what's going to be in those best interests. At this time, it's our opinion, the citizens of the surrounding neighborhood, that a unrestricted C2 is not in the interest of the community. We would ask that you vote down the proposition as it is before you today, and that if, in the future, when the interests of the trust come back with a defined plan, something good, for the good of the community and the good of its citizens, to protect its interests, that then we could reconsider our position as to what we believe is better for the neighborhood. Again, these things, in summary, we believe it is what makes Gastonia a great city for its great citizens, and we'd like to see its prospects and its people achieve, the awards that we have had in the past, to go forward with our great future. 3 meetings ago, one of my daughters had spoke, and as she used to walk through the neighborhood on foot as a pedestrian, 5-8 years ago, she was able to do that. Now she's not. Whether or not she would reconsider coming back to this area based on the additional population, the stress on the neighborhood, the traffic flow, the potential for additional crime, and the impact on the area, strongly weighs on her in the long run. She wants to come back for school, she wants to visit, she wants to do things. But as our youth, we grow, we develop, we try to make them into good citizens. Are they going to come back and be citizens of Gastonia, or are they going to look elsewhere? Things like this, on days like today, and issues that we bring at hand, are the things that they see, we, as parents and leaders, that they will see the decisions that we make as we make them, whether or not this is a place that they want to be and become a citizen in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Randolph Taylor, 401 Thomas Trail, please, sir. Next is Nan Curlin, 2600 Thomas Trail.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight to speak. I'm here to restate my opposition to the rezoning of the Powell properties, Powell Trust property, located on Glenwood, from RS-12 residential to unrestricted C2 commercial. Considering the extensive topics that are to be addressed tonight, I will not restate the many reasons that I have for my position. Most of these things have already been stated by other folks. The one thing that I will mention is that recently, within the last 10 days, there was a very severe accident on Armstrong Park Road. The road was blocked from the Cox Road intersection all the way to Club Drive, off of Armstrong Park Road, excuse me. And which involved, there were approximately 7 police vehicles, 2 rescue vehicles, a fire engine, and people that had to be cut out of their vehicles. I've lived at Thomas Trail for 33 years. I've never seen that happen, nowhere near that kind of severity. When you stop the egresses when Dunham was closed, and 2 entrances to Franklin Boulevard were eliminated, all the traffic goes to Armstrong Park Road. And when that happens, you have people who become anxious, who became frustrated, and they use the turn lane. It's a 2-lane road with a turn lane. They use that turn lane and try to bypass the other traffic to get to the signal at Franklin Boulevard. And in doing so, when someone moves over from the other direction into the turn lane, it's the makings of a major crash. And I don't know exactly the outcome of that, but I do know the road was closed for approximately from 6:30 or so till about 10 o'clock that night to clear that as a result. I do understand the Powell Trust's need to rezone the aforementioned properties. I understand their need and their desire. And I would support a rezoning classification of C1 conditional. Thank you again for this opportunity to present my position, and I apologize for the dehydration that I'm suffering today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Nan Curlin, 2600 Thomas Trail. Next is Becca Hurd, 2610 Thomas Trail.
Good evening. I'd like to thank you for the chance that I had to speak with each of you in the council, and also for your taking of your time to meet with us at the property and understand the dilemma that we're in. Please refuse this C2 zoning. Considering the fact that a portion of this property is already commercial doesn't mean that you can follow the adage that 2 wrongs make it right. A conditional use permit would give the council the opportunity to develop a transition from a busy Franklin Boulevard to our very verdant and family-oriented neighborhood. But, as Cindy suggested, a memorial park would be an appropriate addition to our Gastonia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Becca Hurd, 2610 Thomas Trail. Next is Karen Piercy, 405 Dunham Road.
Hello, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Becca Hurd at 2610 Thomas Trail. And to start with, I just wanted to bring up what Cindy keeps forgetting to show you all, but we have 139 signatures from the neighborhood that were collected from the initial, it was an appeal for the initial zoning for C3. So at this time, I guess, can I hand that up to you all? Thank you. Okay, so I too am opposed to the blanket C2 zoning. I think the close vote on this that we had last time has shown that this issue deserves more scrutiny and attention. We've still not been contacted from the real estate agent nor the property owners, and I think we would like to see this motion to be tabled or suspended until there's been a thorough review of both the original C3 line and then also further discussions about the properties that are currently zoned residential and as part of our neighborhood. So I would like to oppose the C2 zoning and, like others have stated, have Mr. Clay bring that up as C1 if that's what the Powells are interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Karen Piercy, 405 Dunham Road.
Hi, everyone. Everybody is so congenial and so nice, and I'm afraid my attitude is not quite there. So I'm going to do my best to get through this without offending anybody. I would like to speak on behalf of the 90 homes affected by the decision to convert the 6.24 acres on Glenwood Drive to C2 commercial. This is not going to be pleasant, so I would suggest that you brace yourself. Okay? City council members are voted by the people, and from what I understand, for the people and for the best interest of Gastonia. It seems that this decision was a bit on the bias side and in the spirit of self-interest. It has been brought to our attention the decision to vote C2 was brought up by a council member prior to the public hearing. It would seem to me that hiring an attorney as well as hearing from your constituency as appointed members, it seems to have been handled in a very most odd and unusual manner. This person remains to be anonymous, and undoubtedly we can understand why. In 1967, the zoning of the existing C3 just south of Maplewood is an antiquated zoning decision. I think if all of this property were zoned residential and you were asked to consider a broad-based C3 in 2014, I do believe that none of you would consider a heavy commercial use for this location. The mere act of allowing C2 directly across from two residential properties is deplorable. The financial hardship that the city is asking them to endure is surmountable. The property I'm referring to was a purchase of $200,000, and the decision will be devastating to the Boyer residents as well as the neighbor adjacent to her. If the C2 must prevail, I believe that conditional use would be a fair compromise and a far better solution to this dilemma. C1 would be even better. I would give the city of Gastonia, as well as its residents, whom through property tax contribution is in excess of $300,000 per year to the city, at a chance at more of an appropriate use. In addition, I would ask the council or someone on the council to make a motion to zone the property IO for offices of this parcel, which would be a far better transition to our neighborhood. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, ma'am. The last one is it Mark McNeil? Mr. McNeil, if you'll give your address, please.
2291 Winborn Drive. Hello, Mr.
Thank you,
Mayor.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. And council members, I am just asking to be a part of a committee. I want to give back to the community in which I live. This is the community where my daughter will be raised, where she will pick her friends, her girlfriends, her circle of friends. And the best way for me to give back is to help. I did when I was in Charlotte, and I want to do now while I'm in Gastonia. As you can see from my resume that was passed, I have experience in Marine Corps. I'm an honorary discharged Marine. I worked as a financial analyst. I've worked security for the FBI. I've been an IT consultant for the last 20 years. And I've also been the homeowner vice president of my homeowner association. I've volunteered as a track coach in Charlotte for the past 8 years. And now that I live in Gastonia, I want to help the community here. I'll be starting a nonprofit next year that will help educate the people on budgeting, not credit counseling. I'm not giving loaves of bread, and I'm not giving fish. I'm teaching people to work with what they have, learning to budget with what they have, and showing them the programs that will help them attain a home. Miss Myra Nichols Mercer has done an outstanding job for the city as far as helping people get homes. I want to assist her. What I see that is lacking in Gastonia is that other entities that will help her, other nonprofits that are going to help her help the citizens acquire homes and be more vested in their communities. And by helping me get on this committee, it would be a great help for me. Please help me help the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate that. Okay, that's the all of the public expression. We now will